Hey, everybody. We're here joined with writer-director Carmelo Chimera, actress Jessie Nerud, and actors Danny and Scotty Bohnen of the new film Sin Eater, which is going to be releasing on May 11th and also features one of the horror fan favorites, Bill Mosely. So thank you guys all for joining us today.
Yeah, no problem. Hello.
Of course.
Thank you. We're excited to be here.
Yeah. Awesome.
Thanks for having us.
I just want to dig right in, and I guess I'll start with Carmelo, if that's cool. So without giving away spoilers, I guess, can you give us a quick rundown of what Sin Eater is about?
Yeah, so Sin Eater is about a woman on the run from her past who is stranded in a small town after a terrible accident, and now stuck there with a horrific injury. She finds herself surrounded by all of these people with their own secrets, and she's going to have to face down her inner demons before she has to deal with the real thing.
Ooh, yeah.
Well said. Well said.
I've been practicing.
Yeah.
You know, it's sort of the cult satanic panic kind of paranoia movie. You know, it's got paranormal elements, but I think it's largely driven by the psychological aspects of feeling isolated and feeling unsure of who to trust. And we were able to pull that off thanks to Jessie's fantastic acting abilities.
Yes.
And your wonderful directing.
We like each other.
Oh, stop.
We kind of like each other. It's all right.
Stop it.
Since we have the whole cast here, I just want to ask you guys, and we can kind of take turns and, you know, chime in. Do you all like horror? And, you know, after doing a horror film, do you think that this is something you're all going to want to do do
Yeah,
I already know the answer to this.
Yeah, Jesse, you want to do this again? What do you think?
You want me to go
We
first?
put Jessie through a lot.
Being on a horror podcast, I'll go first. I will be honest, I'm not the hugest horror fan. But it is extremely fun acting in horror films. So I mean, I just can't handle like super like heavy gore, but I like spooky stuff. So I like spooky like ghost stories with like, I like that kind of thing, but like the heavy gore is a little too much for me. I'm kind of a wimp, but I mean, acting in horror is extremely fun. So I like that. Yeah.
I don't think you'd be singing. I don't think you were singing that tune at 2 a.m. in January with
That
blood
was
all
a
over
rough
you.
night, guys. That was a long ass night.
I was just telling our Dave about what we did in January.
Yeah.
With
The
all of
first
us
few
in.
days, I would say like the first like 5 or it was just that last night, guys. That last night was long and I was covered in blood.
If
And
you,
then I was
For all
tired.
of us.
We were trying
all
to
right.
wrangle this little girl who refused to do anything. I think
was
that's really just what.
yeah, don't use kids in your
Don't
films
use
if you can help
kids.
it.
No,
Um,
no.
To be
But
clear,
anyway-
this isn't Sin Eater. This is a whole separate movie.
Yeah,
we filmed
sorry.
together
Well, let's
after
get back
Sin
to
Eater.
let's get back to Sin Eater. That
Yeah.
sort of alludes to the answer of will we do it again? Yeah, it was, I don't know. You guys might not know this, but Scotty and I and Carmelo met because Scotty and I guess used to run, because the last episode was last year, but a horror podcast actually, much like this one, called the Cult Classic Horror Show, and that's sort of where we met. And Scotty and I had aspirations to create a film with no content, and Carmelo had the content, and so we combined forces and made Sin Eater. So we're very much horror fans. We watched all the horrible movies to the good movies, reviewed them, interviewed directors, actors. It was, so we come from the same background, you know, and big horror nerds, always willing to watch horror. Unfortunately, my wife isn't, so I have to sneak it in when I can. But yeah, it's a great genre. We have another project in post right now that's sort of a small passion project, and we do have our sights set on something different than horror next, but we'll probably always come back to it. I would say at least every year or two, something like that, you know.
Yeah.
Rom-com, right?
Yes.
No rom-com.
I
A
mean, I
rom-com, but
wouldn't
everyone
complain.
dies at the very end. Horrible
Jesse
chainsaw
keeps
death.
asking me to write her a rom-com, but I'm neither funny nor romantic, so I don't really
You
know.
are a very romantic person. When you hear him wax on about his wife, it's like sickening. So yeah.
He's gonna write you a rom-com, but you're gonna have the mouthpiece in it.
Yeah,
Oh,
and I'll
yeah.
probably have like contacts to where I'm blind and can't see, and I'll be
Yeah,
like
if you-
naked in the
Pasties.
woods in the
We
middle
have
of the night.
we have a history with Jesse. We very much started out as like guerrilla filmmakers. The first film we did was a found footage horror movie where we just brought a camera up to the woods, and she's had to go through 7 hours of makeup and couldn't see, and it was cold. And then all of a sudden we're like, no, we got a different movie now. It's going to be much more comfortable. But then she wears this mouth thing the whole time, and then we're like, oh, we have this other small passion project that I think it should be a quick shoot, you know. And but here she is covered in blood and paint and you know, contacts, and yeah, she's been through it.
Hey, when you find your dream team, people who you love working with, you
It's
stick
worth
with
it.
it.
Oh yeah,
So,
we take care of each other.
Yeah.
And I get piggyback on what Danny said, just to answer your question too. Everything what he said, and we kind of grew up with it with our dad and family, watching films like The Shining and Evil Dead, Freddy, Jason. So it's just like been ingrained kind of in us, and it's like our first genre to go to, as far as the genre that we love. So
We could
great-
sit here probably and
question.
talk, like, just argue with you guys about horror all night if you want to.
Yeah.
Evil Dead's
Well-
the king of kings, and
But-
Fede Alvarez's remake is almost as good or better than the original. So I mean,
Wow.
let's go at it, you know.
Yeah.
We
I
can
actually
just go
am-
back.
I am curious though, because like this is a kind of a hybrid of a few different genres. Carmelo, you were kind of mentioning like it's got like some paranormal, but then it's also like satanic panic. Do you have like favorite genres?
Yeah, I mean, me personally, I really, and Danny and I have this in common. I really like paranormal stuff because it's genuinely frightening. I mean, I like to say I'm a recovering Catholic, and when you've gone through like 18 years of Catholic school, like it's really hard to beat the fear of the devil out of you. So even if like, in my conscious mind, I'm not afraid of demons, I still cross myself if I get, too scared. So this stuff really does bother me because part of me thinks it's very real. And also you can't really fight back against paranormal stuff. Whereas like, I mean, if you listen to the Cult Classic Horror Show, most of the episodes is Danny talking about how much he beat ass on like Freddy and Jason and like, screw those slasher killers. And
Chucky.
he's not, what's that?
And Chucky, he would just pick up the doll and kick it.
Chucky's not scary at all. What the
Chucky.
fuck? Just keep kicking him. You just keep kicking him.
But Danny's got a point. Like, even if you lose, you can fight Jason. How do you fight like a presence or a specter or something?
Yeah.
And so that really bothers me.
I agree with you too, for sure.
Yeah.
I agree. So over the years, folklore stories have been like the main focus for horror films. What was it that inspired you to create a film about sin eaters?
Ooh.
Yeah, sin eaters always have really bothered me for a very interesting reason. I'm glad you asked that question. There's a whole field that studies what they call comparative mythology, right? The idea that different races and cultures and religions, some of whom have never interacted with each other, somehow come up with the same or similar myths. For example, you find the myth of the flood in Judaism, but you also find it all the way back in ancient Babylon through the Epic of Gilgamesh, right? Like, why did these two very different people come up with a flood? It's so specific. And the sin eaters, the same thing. Hinduism, Judaism, Christianity, certain Native American cultures have an idea of a sin eater. And it's not just that sins can be transferred, it's that it always has to do with eating. It's so weird. Why is it always about eating? And so that bothered me because there's only a few options. Either it's an incredible coincidence or maybe they're onto something. So that bothers me. That keeps me up at night sometimes.
Yeah. So you wrote a movie about it, and here we are.
So in this film, aside from the sin eaters, is like you're also a lot of like themes of like the contradicting religious themes that we see in life, where there's like you know, the idea of like family and everything, but then there's also the idea of like excluding certain people because of the way they are, right? So, you know, we have obviously the main character, I don't know if this is a spoiler, actually. I'm kind of wondering if I should say this or not.
We'll do a light spoiler warning if you want, you know. You guys
Okay,
can-
light spoiler warning here. She's part of the LGBTQ community. So I thought that was an interesting aspect to kind of like bring into this idea of, you know, with the religion part. So I just wondered like how you guys all as a team, like, because Carmelo, you wrote the story, but how did the cast kind of feel when they read this and how this was going to be presented?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Jesse, how'd you feel when the script took that turn?
I mean, honestly, I had no problem with it. I thought it added an awesome back wedge to this character. I mean, it answered so many of the questions. It gave me motivation for what I'm doing, why I'm running. I mean, just with like today's like temperature, I was a little nervous because I personally am not in that community. So I just tried to treat it with reverence and respect and really just, you know, just push through. But I mean, it was really just finding the character. She was Christine, you know, it's such a part of it. So it wasn't even really a stretch, but it was awesome. It was really, really interesting. So and after that, I've booked a few more roles like that. So I don't know what it is about me, but
You got
no,
that
but I
vibe
mean,
now.
I thought it was a really interesting aspect of the Christine character. And
Yeah.
I think it really made her strong in what she is, what the character is. So yeah.
Adds the other layer to what you already had, you know.
Yeah.
So it really was good. Yeah.
And it
Mhm.
provides it provides like a very interesting not side story, but just you know, other like plot line to the film, and
Yeah.
one that was a perfect fit to squeeze in Bill Mosely. You know, it was like, how do we get someone in here who's recognizable and shoot him out very quickly and have it still stay very relevant? And this was like the perfect solution to include him in that subplot. And then I just think it's a very interesting sequence of events. You're really wondering what the hell's going on there for a while. You know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that kind of put a twist in that part. I'm not going to give it away either. In that part with Isaac and Christine, the part that Danny plays Isaac, and he's just, you know, blown away, and that's when kind of the tables start turning and things start going downhill really fast.
Yeah.
Or uphill, whatever you want to say. So it's really a turn in the movie too.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely thought that it was nice because, like you said, with Bill Mosley's character, it gets you this like tie-in to why that's all happening, and I really like thought that was well done because you didn't necessarily see it coming. Like you knew something was going on there, but like I don't know why that's happening. So to see it really made sense. And I thought, Carmelo, for you to add that in there was actually like, it kind of highlighted the issues that you were trying to point out with religion, or I think you were trying to point out with religion, and how it can present as very exclusionary, even though it's supposed to be all about being all encompassing. And I thought that was a really nice way to kind of bring that to like modern day, you know, examples and stuff like that. So I thought that was a nice tie-in.
Thank you.
Yeah. So with you guys being like horror fans, what was it like working with Bill Mosely?
He's so cool.
Yeah, he's very pleasant.
I'll just go. He's just like the total opposite of what you expected he would be. Like, you know, we picked him up at the airport. Me and Danny like stood there, and he totally like walked past us. So we didn't know where he went. And then he like was at the baggage claim and like, hey, Bill, yeah, hey. I'm like, oh, Scotty. And so he was just like humble, just nicest guy you've ever met, and really just loves his craft, loves horror, loves to work with independent horror. And you know, he didn't like half-ass it. He wasn't like coming to think he was just gonna do this and get out of here and perform for a bunch of kids or whatever. He was really into the part, had a backstory. Him and Carmelo collaborated great. So it was, I mean, he's like a legend, you know? And so it was really cool. We really got to know him, and he was one of the nicest guys that I've met. So yeah.
Yeah.
You guys agree?
I don't even.
Definitely.
Bill came to play, man. He had ideas about the character. He had done research. He'd read the script 6 times before we shot the whole script, not just his sides, which his scenes. I mean, he really brought his A game, and you know, on a personal note, he's been such a good friend to us ever since. And I really, you know, if you ever have the pleasure, please, you know, see him at a convention, go talk to him, because he's really terrific.
And he came out to Denver to attend the premiere with us.
Came out,
Made the trip and came with his wife, and
we had a like a private premiere sort of, because
private screener
technically premiered yet, and he came out and spent some time with us, and then Carmelo's even since met up with him for lunch while he was at a con in Chicago, I think. So that was he's just a real cool guy.
It was really fun sitting next to him at the preview, because, you know, you think this guy, he's like been in so many films, and I just feel like at this point he like nothing would surprise him, but sitting next to him through the whole movie, he was like, oh, ooh, cool, no, like the whole time. And I was like, it made my experience watching it better, because he was just so into it, you know, and just doing the scenes with him, he taught me things, but he was like, his intensity, like, yes, he was humble, super nice, but his intensity was terrifying. I was like, ooh, hey, like, he was an intense guy, but again, just super kind, really, really funny and humble and super sweet.
Yeah, totally.
That's pretty awesome. I love it when you meet somebody who's famous and you're like, oh my god, and then they're just regular people.
Oh, yeah. Totally.
He was there to collaborate, not to run the show, because he's the star. He was there to work with us all. He respected us all. It was a really cool experience. It really was.
Yeah. You know, we told him, you know, we're like used to him, you know, running around naked with pistols and you know, saying F bombs and fuck you and this and that, and then you just come, hey, like, oh hey, how's it going, man? And you just talk to him. He's just so gentle and cool.
He is like a gentle old guy at heart with his
totally is.
Wearing his slacks and his sweater and picking him up at the airport.
His little corduroy suit jacket. He's pretty cute.
You can tell probably back in the day that he went crazy, you know, went off the rails, but he's, you know, he's definitely loves the craft, loves the fans, loves to interact with people and go to the cons and everything. So he's in it 100%.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. So without giving it away, I guess, because you guys are doing really good at not giving anything away, but still answering questions spot on. So kudos to you guys. Yeah. I just want to talk about, there was some really cool set designs, like the house, the basement. It was really like all enclosing, like claustrophobic, and it actually like looked, and it was almost like a character in the movie itself. So I just wanted to see whose vision that was and how you guys really designed it. And did you guys all help out, or was it just one person?
Well, it was definitely,
you can start talking about that.
Yeah, it was definitely a team effort in the development stage between Danny, Scotty, and myself. It was we found that house, and it was more certain scenes had to be redecorated to fit the story, but the house was that. It was an old house which gave it that feeling of tradition that comes with religion. It was a house that had some big rooms like the living room set, which lets us get a lot of equipment in there, but also some very small claustrophobic spaces, that like the long hallways where we can get some of those Kubrick-esque like hallway shots. And it was just the result of a lot of searching, right? We looked for that house. We scoured, I mean, literally hundreds of potential houses.
Yeah.
And, even though a lot of them get knocked off the list pretty quick, we still had to go through so many of them. Scotty and Danny, I think, took the first pass, and then I was looking at him afterward. And when we found that house, we just sort of knew it was the right fit. The age was important, but also, the decor really was nice. It had a lot of pattern decor. There was also this like theme of like ravens. They had a lot of ravens and crows in the house, which I didn't write in the script, but when I saw it, I was like, well, that adds a nice, dimension. So, maybe on a larger scale film, we could build something from scratch and make it exactly what we wanted. But here we were looking, and I'm glad, because then the house brought stuff to the movie that I would not have all thought of. And that's what makes filmmaking great, is all these different pieces that come together and make something bigger than you could ever imagine.
Yeah, the house came from it was I wouldn't say friend, but an acquaintance of Scotty and Jessie and I's, who she's an actress as well, but we just knew she owned this, old house in a affluent part of Denver. And so she agreed to rent it to us for a couple weeks. And then the cool thing, all the basement stuff, the holy room stuff is all in a different location. That's my family owns a dinner theater in the small town that I'm from, and that's actually the basement of their dinner theater. And so we went down there and cleaned it up real nice and set decorated. And so it's funny when you see them walk into the basement in the house, that's just a tiny closet. And
we were in that closet a few times, just huddled together.
Scotty and Jessie had to hide in there and walk out when I'm sitting up there. And so it was, I think we knew from the beginning that we wanted to use the basement at my family's place, just because we knew what it looked like. But we were open to the basement of a house if we found one, and it ended up working out great. And then just to cap it off, the only other real location was the road, and that was out front of a family friend's house. Because you would just be maybe you wouldn't be surprised, but it's very hard to block off a legit looking road for the day and use it. And
a paved road, especially.
We got a commitment from the county basically, and we told them this was well in advance. We said we'd like to use this stretch of road or something like it, and it had the lines, and it was not major, but it was a decently trafficked road, and they agreed to block it off. And then when it came down to finalizing everything, they said, "Oh, well, you have to pick one of these roads," and they were all county dirt roads, county line dirt roads and stuff. And we were like, well, it needs to be at least paved, and we'd preferably like to have lines on it. It needs to look like she was going faster than 25 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And luckily
that
we didn't
car
get our
could barely
lines
accomplish.
Oh, that car was a piece of shit.
We didn't get our lines really.
25.
But
Sorry,
we knew a guy who lived on this sort of drive to a neighborhood, and the county agreed to let us use that road, and we sort of used his house as a base camp. But the car barely ran. That was a junk car that my brother-in-law let us use.
And that day was like a 10-degree day or 12-degree day. It was really cold that day. Yeah,
that was the last day.
Yeah, that was the very last day. So we shot it in 3 different locations and over a matter of 4 weeks, and it was everything worked out pretty good, smooth sailing.
But as far as you said, the sets kind of having their own character, they were their own character almost. I think Carmelo would agree with that, because the house that we shot in, he was actually sleeping there during the night.
Basement.
And the whole set would leave, the crew would leave, we'd all go home, and Carmelo was in that house alone, and he was scared.
He was scared. He was noises.
He was screamed out. He was hearing sounds, and I think just your mind being there on the set, I think he was legitimately scared.
Oh yeah, sounds. I mean, it's old, late 1800s house, and you were there by yourself. And Carmelo's the only one that came out to Colorado. Everyone else is local.
I'm not from there. No.
So
I love how they just threw you under the bus.
No, it's true. You know what? It's true. I'm glad she did, because I've been trying to work through this in therapy for the last few years. It's helpful to talk about it. But the very first night I was there,
tell the story.
First night I was there, I was on the phone with my wife, and I heard a crackling noise, and I walked over to where we had the walkie-talkies for the set, and they had turned on somehow, and so I was hearing white noise, which was bad enough. But when I went to turn them off, I saw movement from the garden window in the basement, and I thought, I must be just going crazy. And then I heard footsteps, and I was like, hon, if I don't call you back in 5 minutes, call the police. And I went upstairs and I'm like, this is night one. This should have been like night 3, you know?
Yeah.
And,
Man.
and sure enough, there was someone in the house.
Oh,
And
damn.
so now we're like across the room from each other. And I'm like, who the hell are you? And it turned out it was one of the owners, and he was not kind about that. He knew I was going to stay there though. So he had like let himself in and then acted surprised to see me, but he knew I was going to be there. And I thought it was an intruder. So here I'm just like, who the fuck is this? And it all worked out okay. No one was killed. But you know, that really put me on edge the rest of the shoot. Yeah.
You should have recorded it for some bonus footage.
Because both owners were going to be in the mountains for like 2 weeks while we were there, and they were like, "Yeah, half the house you can stay in the basement." But he like showed up out of nowhere.
He came to like get the mail or something, right? He came to grab a package or something.
He's probably investigating. He wanted to see what you guys were doing to his house.
Yeah.
Don't go in my office.
Fortunately, I was wearing
The
pants.
basement
Was
to
it a
your guys'
finished
place
basement?
is pretty spooky too.
Yeah. It was a finished basement.
It was,
Okay.
yeah.
It
But
was actually the only.
Jesse, you're right. That basement was spooky too, but it was finished. It's just low ceilings, stone
Okay.
walls, things like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So that's where they had like the TV. So like in like the movie, we mentioned that I like Isaac said that we don't even have a TV. We aren't modern, and so actually when we came in and toured her house, the living room didn't have a TV. It was set up the way we had it in the movie already. So like everything was set up perfectly. They watched TV in the basement, so like it did look like they weren't really in tight touch with TV, with watching TV. Or
I mean, you have a good point.
technology.
You have a good point because there was no set dressing needed, basically none.
Yeah.
And that's the reason we went. One of the reasons we went with that house. We had a couple runner-ups that were nearby that were Airbnbs that we could have, and we were talking to them, letting me know we were doing a film, but it would have required us to, move out their swanky leather couches and flat screens and bring in like old looking couches and stuff. So it was perfect.
We lucked out with that location. We really did. And your guys' basement.
Yeah.
Was your town pretty like excited to have you guys filming and all that? Were they receptive to it?
I wouldn't say that the county or the town really gave a shit, but
but the crew.
But the tow truck guys, let me tell you what.
I think the crew were pretty excited too.
The deputies liked it too. The deputies who
you're right.
They even let us use their car.
We did. We had to hire two police officers to block off each side of the road and let traffic through when we told them it was okay via the walkie. And so they did. They loved it. But I got to tell the tow truck story. It was so funny. I was like negotiating a tow company to come out there because we knew we were going to roll this car. And that's in the trailer, so it's not a spoiler alert. And and this was another task. Like, how are we she has to get in a car wreck. The first thing was going to be, we'll put like a camera really close to the front tire and it'll swerve and then it'll go black and then you'll hear car wreck noises. You know what I mean? And then she'll then when she awakes, she'll be in the midst of a car wreck. When really all we did was like take 5 of us and tip it over and beat the hell out of it. You know what I mean?
It was plan A. Yeah.
That was plan A. And we were still going to do that, but I still needed a tow truck company to come like remove the vehicle. And so I got on the phone with like a local tow truck company who happened to like know someone I went to high school with. And I like talked him I started explaining and he's like, "Oh, hold on." He's like, "We can roll the car." I was like, "What do you mean? How are you going to roll the car?" He's like, "Oh," and he just went into this big, like, "I got to wrap this tow strap around it. And we're going to take off and it's going to like fucking flip under." And I was like, "Okay." And he's like, "And then we'll drain all the fluids before we do that. And then, once we're done with it, we can load it on the flatbed and I'll have like three trucks out there, like 4 guys and blah, blah." And I was like,
that whole company took all of work off that day just to come see.
And we get to the end of the conversation and I'm like, "All right, well, okay. So can you send me like a bid on this?" And he's like, "Oh, we'll do it for free." I was like, "What?"
Yeah. What's the name of that? We gotta say the name of that tow truck company. It's in the credits.
them out.
It's in the credits. Monarch Towing
Monarch.
Oh, there
LLC
you
in
go.
Longmont,
Yeah.
Colorado.
And shout out to Anthony Rizzo, the tow truck
Yeah.
driver who
And I don't mean anything negative about the guys, but they looked as though you would expect avid tow truck workers to look, and
they look tough. Is what.
and
it
we
means.
had the private screening, and we invited them, and like, god damn it if they didn't show up with like suits and ties on.
Yeah.
It cleaned up great.
Yeah.
And it was funny,
crazy.
like at one point, both the deputies just stopped watching traffic because they wanted to watch the scene and stuff. And like cars were like trying to get by, and like the cars, and then the both deputies like, oh, they'll be fine. I'm not gonna miss this right now. I'm like, dude, you're supposed to be doing your job. Like,
Yeah,
whatever.
the sheriff jacket I'm wearing in the opening and the cop car in the background were last minute additions that the cops were like, oh, let me pull my car up. You know, they were like, all right, sweet. So it worked
So
out.
they were
That's
definitely excited, and I think friends and
Yeah.
family, of course, and because this is a bigger step from the first movie that we did for the found footage when we did in the woods. And this was definitely double the budget, double the crew.
More than that, but yeah.
yeah, more than
Yeah.
double the budget. But it was just it was a big production for us, and we all did a collaborative team effort. We all did more. Like Carmelo did more than just direct. He set up the coffee and helped hang the stuff, and Jesse was helping. So we were all doing other stuff besides acting and directing, and so it was definitely
we
a good
tried to
time.
leave some of the real important stuff to professionals. We did
Oh, of
hire
course.
we hired like a 2-man camera team and a sound department basically, and made sure that it was all done correctly.
Lighting-
and a
lighting
3-man
department.
lighting team too.
Yeah.
The whole gaff crew. So that was, but it was still, other than that, it was still a really small set.
Sure.
Yeah, we had
Yeah,
some
and
PAs
that's-
stuff.
I think that paid off because you wouldn't assume that from watching it, like the quality
No.
of the film.
Oh,
You would not
thanks.
assume
Thank you.
a small,
Thanks.
scale thing.
Yeah, that was our hope, was to create something that, the phrase I kept using the whole planning time was, how do you like punch out of your weight class, right? How do you make an independent film, a smaller budget film, but treat it and make it turn out to look as good as something really high budget? And my philosophy, and Scotty and Danny and I talk about this all the time, is if you try to make $100 million movie for $100,000, it's going to look like dog shit. But if you try to make $100,000 movie for $100,000, it could look excellent in like any other film,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So that's my philosophy. If I try to make Avengers on this budget, it would be terrible. But if you try to make Evil Dead on a few $100,000, you get an immortal cult classic.
Hell yeah, amen to that.
Agree.
Yeah.
And I was gonna ask this to Carmelo, but I think I can probably open this to all of you guys, except for Jesse. I'm not sure. Was this your first like feature film, like full length film? For you,
Carmelo?
Jesse?
For
For
me,
you, Jesse,
it was my first lead in a
Okay.
full-length feature. So
Okay.
I've been in several features before, but this was my first lead role for sure.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And Carmelo, I know you've had a few projects that you've done, but as far as I know, this was like your first full length.
This was my first writing and directing of a full feature film. Actually,
Okay.
I'd written some scripts that we haven't shot yet before this one, but this is the first one I wrote and directed. I'd only done shorts previously, and I'd written a few shorts, and I'd only directed one or two very small ones. So this is honestly, I had no business making this movie. I don't know what
None of us did.
Yeah.
Well,
We just did
That's
it.
was
why
that?
we work so well together, guys. We are the dream team.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Together we
What was
like
that
make-
process like for you
Yeah.
guys? Like, making
it
this
was-
full length film and seeing this all like play out the way it did.
Well,
So much fun.
Scott,
We-
you
we-
might be, yeah, go ahead, Scott.
I mean, we started filming this in January of 2020, so this is like before COVID hit, and so it's been a long time coming. I mean, we're like 2022 now, so it's finally here, and but right as we met Carmelo, we were buddy, and we've known Jessie for like what 8-9 years now or something.
Gosh, for a long time.
A long time. We've been the
Been a
same
while.
acting workshop class with her, and we just grew bonds. We've done scene work with her, acting, acting technique exercises and stuff. So we've always knew that we wanted to work with Jessie. And then we met Carmelo, and me and Danny couldn't write, so like Danny wrote a couple scripts, and I can't write with crap. And, we just grew up acting in theater and just have a passion for screen acting for movies. Then we met Carmelo, and, Carmelo writes graphic novels. He's, we saw that, but then I'm like, hey, could you write a script? Like, oh, actually, yeah, I have a few that I've written, and what are you guys thinking? And then like, I don't know, just something horror. Then he like wrote a couple other ones, and then Sin Eater came to the table, and then we're like, hey, we have this great girl. Her name's Jessie Nerud. She could play this part. And, oh yeah, and they hadn't even met yet, and so then like it just came together so quickly, and like it just clicked right away. And so it's been one of the most funnest. I can say funnest, right? Most funnest experiences I've ever had in my life.
Yeah, and you gotta give. I still give all like writing credit to Carmelo, but we definitely like he hadn't written this yet when we decided we wanted to shoot this. I tried writing a little with my other buddy who was another co-host on our podcast, and we all saw how hopefully no one saw how that ended up on screen for She Walks the Woods. I know Carmelo thinks I'm too hard on myself.
We did a movie called She Walks the Woods that's on Amazon Prime,
guys.
But it's sort of a fun little movie, but it just doesn't really go anywhere.
But I had a blast.
So we're like, let's try again. And we actually wrote this, I think, Carmelo, we were thinking it was still budget-wise, we were still going to have to deal with found footage when we first started writing this. And that was just because, for the same reasons Carmelo talked about, I've never been one to try and make like a movie that's going to have explosions and laser beams for $100,000, because that's just not it's just going to look how it's going to look, so we thought we were going to have to go found footage, but then as the project was coming together and we got a little more budget and we were able to see like some of the people we could work with, we were able to work it out. But I will say, without giving too much away, we sort of wrote the whole script started with the end, I should say, the sort of climactic moment where Christine empowers herself, and we had this visual we really wanted to achieve. And I'd say that we just personally, I'd say that we're like 80% of what I wanted, but people watch it and they have huge reactions to it and they love it. So I'm probably just being hard on myself, but it was built around sort of the climax, and then it was reverse engineered from that point. And Carmelo we would have these meetings about the story, and he would just keep on, honestly, Carmelo would just keep bringing things up, and we would just keep saying that was awesome. So
and I think we talked about that climax while we were smoking cigars, drinking whiskey in my hot tub, and then it just went from there.
Yeah, that's where all the best ideas come from.
That's where the magic happens.
You gotta start somewhere. So you can't keep beating yourself up, man. Like you said, people enjoy it. So you took the step. You know what I mean? That's all you can do. So and now you're gonna take another step with this film, and you're gonna have more. So.
I mean, that's the thing with every film, if they keep growing the way, like we went from She Walks the Woods to Sin Eater, like it was huge. The amount that we were able to get accomplished. I think if we keep growing at that rate, I mean, guys, come on.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I totally agree.
I just looked up She Walks the Woods, and I've got it ready to go. So when this is over,
don't do it.
Well, Joshua, well, now that you met me and Danny, you met Jessie, I think you might like it because you kind of get our humor now. But if you watch it, you didn't meet us, you'd be like, this is just horrible, which it is pretty bad. It's pretty bad, but
it's not that bad.
I'm the eternal optimist, and I just want to say it has an awesome fucking monster in it.
Oh, that's crazy.
And I think it's worth watching just for the monster. There's some good gore in there.
Just watch like the last 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Or just wait for Sin Eater 2 weeks.
the first part of the movie kind of drags a while.
No, the opening's great, and then you got about an hour of you could fast forward through that.
Yeah.
Well, and that was the big difference, I think, between She Walks the Woods and Sin Eater. Was not even just the production value, right? Is like when you try to do something off an outline and then you end up ad-libbing a lot of it. Like it's hard just because real life doesn't make sense. In real life, stuff just happens. Yeah. But in movies, it has to make sense. And so when you can impose a structure on events so that there's meaning, then you have a story as opposed to just random stuff. And that's what we were able to do with Sin Eater. And I think everyone really brought that together because everyone was bringing the different elements needed to tie together into something that hopefully left you thinking a little bit at the end.
Yeah. And we all read the script. We all loved the script. We all jived with it immensely. And we just 100% gave it our all. And, I thought made a pretty good flick.
I'll give Carmelo some extra praise because we didn't go right to Bill Mosely for the role. And, we sort of first option was Tony Todd, and we sent it to his agent, and he was not like reachable at the moment. He was traveling or shooting something. Yeah. But the agent was like, the agent loved the script a lot and was like, let me get back to you. Let me talk to Tony and we'll get back to you and whatever. And that, so that left that, and he sort of wasn't getting back to us. And I was like, what the heck? So then we just started putting some feelers out for a couple other people. I don't want to take up too much time, but it was a long road. It ended. Part of it was like an hour-long call with Lance Hendrickson's agent that was like ecstatic about the script and says she usually tosses him in the trash, but this one she couldn't put down. But he's just played too many priests. He does not want to play any more priests. So please let us know about future projects. And then we had like Ken Foray hitting him up, but then we weren't really down with his offer. And then that resulted in him like personally emailing me a few times. I'm like, no, we're not interested. Like, please. And it culminated in like a 2-hour conversation with Michael Biehn. I don't know. Ask me how we got there.
Dicks from Aliens. Yeah, Kyle Reese, Terminator.
But he's like, I don't like the name, and I don't know if I don't do horror. But and then we just started talking, and he was like, mentoring. It was me, a 3-way call with me, Carmelo, and Michael Biehn, and he's like mentoring, and he's like, blah blah blah, and we were like, thank you so much. And we were very first ecstatic, and then after about 30 minutes, we're still on the phone or an hour texting each other like, are we done yet? But it was awesome. Michael Biehn was such a joy to talk to, and he had so much awesome insight. So yeah.
But then
just to put a bow on that story, right before we started shooting, Tony Todd's agent was like, we're ready to do this, and we're like, we had to move on. And they were upset. They really wanted to do it. And just Tony wasn't because remember, we're casting like over the holidays. It was between like November and December, and some people just aren't available. Yeah. And but we'll get our chance. We love Tony Todd. We'll get our chance.
Yeah.
But Mosely was perfect. And
Mosely was fantastic.
We landed it, and
the stars aligned with Mosely. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm just so glad we know him because he's just such a good dude,
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was funny because Danny and Scotty, after I watched the film, I found out that you guys were twin brothers. The way that you guys were like busting each other's balls in the scene, like it was a good add-in, you know what I mean? And then so
totally,
we had talked before about the dinner theater growing up and the whole family affair. Like it's just crazy. It's like how was that whole experience? Just bringing everything together.
That scene with us arguing, that's like real stuff happening right there.
Well, if you want to see real arguing, you can go watch She Walks the Woods. And there's actually a couple, because that's an unscripted movie, basically. We had some bullet point things to hit. And we're definitely arguing a couple times in that.
Yeah, that's like full on arguing, no acting, even though it came off like real
but
distance.
I think it came natural. Those were very natural scenes for us, and
they were scripted fully, and we like went through them. But like, we can get on each other's nerves, and with like a movie making that happen, it just feeds the fire. So it's perfect for us.
I'll tell you, the one thing is that our Scott, our stepdad, who
plays Abraham,
who played Abraham, and it was like a really pleasant surprise for Scotty and I. he's a wonderful stage actor, and he's owned a theater in some capacity for probably 30 years. And I only know him from that world because that's where we grew up. And when you do so much theater and then you start focusing a lot on like film acting, it's very easy to like everything. A lot of acting to you seems very overacted. And so anyone you used to do theater with, you're like, God, they're overacting this scene, they're overacting this. And so it sort of was like, I don't know if he's going to be right for the role because he hasn't really done much film, and we couldn't really see it happening, but it was the logical choice because he was the right age and he was our stepdad, and we maybe didn't have to pay him, and so it
we did a casting call for that, and I watched 3 tapes of different actors, and to Danny and Scotty's credit, they were both like, well, we know we're biased here, so like they left it up to me because they were like, we want to not be biased about it. And he was fantastic. He was the one that
you chose out of the 4 guys that auditioned.
Yeah.
And this is before you had even met him, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe met him in passing at the She Walks the Woods premiere. And now Big Scott and I are buddies too. But back then I didn't know him. And just off the quality of his acting. And you know, who else loved it was Mosely was crazy about him. He was at the premiere. Bill was going on and on about how awesome Scott Moore was as Abraham. So I think we made the right choice, guys.
It was. I will say that I don't know if it's because Scotty and I are basically lead producers on this or not, but when we've had 2 screenings now, and then shown it in private to some people, and the general feedback we get from those screenings is a lot high praise for Jessie and high praise for Scott, and then like just high praise on the movie towards me and Scotty.
Yeah,
like
you guys did a great job in the movie.
Were our characters okay?
No, I think that's a good sign though, because if people aren't supposed to like you guys, right? In the film, when you watch it, you're not supposed to like your characters.
Because
Danny more than Scotty, but by the end, Scotty. Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that says a lot.
Yeah. Because Isaac, that Danny plays, you know, he's like the asshole throughout the whole thing, and he ends up, you know, what happens, and then you know what happens with my part too. You start to like me, then it turns around. I don't want to give it away, so but yeah, that's I think you're right, man. I think you're right, Dave.
Yeah, I'm waving to Blakely in the background.
I know, that's so funny.
With the tricycle, I'm getting strong shining vibes.
Got my
Wait, I don't have
riding the tricycle.
Who is that?
It's like Danny. Yeah, Danny Torrance. My little Chucky doll riding back there.
I know, right? That could be
drive by.
She actually did play Pennywise for Halloween, not last year but the year before, and she like nailed it. She had like the balloon and everything. And
I have a daughter a little bit older than that, and we were just talking about how difficult it is with kids and filming with this last project, and we definitely should have used her. I just think that every day now.
Oh man, that was rough. Yeah. And we actually, Blakely was in Chicago. Danny's daughter wasn't, unfortunately. And this girl was 6 that wasn't doing it. And my daughter's 3. And we were going to maybe have her as like a backup to come.
We almost had to call her in.
Yeah.
But and then I
shouldn't go too much into it. We're going to confuse people. We shouldn't talk too much about that.
Let's not. Yeah, we
can come back on and talk about that movie.
I was curious if we should touch on that, but I was like, that kind of,
I can tell you what we did in generally speaking. Just up next, we have in post is another found footage movie called, working title anyway, is Name the Demon. And we just filmed it last month because we all love found footage, especially Scotty and Danny and I love found footage. And we wanted to take a stab at it with a fully scripted movie, right? And like, can we do it with a script, and but with the same production value? Would it be better than? And it's fucking brutal. It is brutal.
It really is.
I haven't watched a horror movie since, because I actually got horror out of my system for the first time in my life making that movie. And that one is almost done. Like, it may come out way quicker than Sin Eater. It will come out way quicker than Sin Eater. So we'll be happy to come talk about that later. That's a found footage possession film, and would love to share a screener with you guys when that time comes.
Absolutely. Yeah, I do love some found footage, so I'm definitely interested.
We didn't really want to like quote unquote take a step backward, but I love the genre so much, so I don't even consider taking a step backward. But Scotty and I felt like we missed the mark with She Walks the Woods, and we sort of wanted like a redeeming film just in the found footage genre. So
yeah,
we thought let's stop for a second and rewind and just see if we can nail that one with Carmelo's help this time around. And and now and I think we did. I mean, and Carmelo's saying it's going to be out so soon because it was a single camera shot. One of the cool shticks is that it's shot in like real time. There's no cuts, although there's some hidden cuts. So it's just a single camera track shot the whole time and very easy to edit, of course. So it should be out pretty soon. It still does have to go through things like sound design and color and VFX, but yeah.
Definitely keep us posted on that project. Definitely interested.
For sure.
Jesse, I wanted to ask you the question that you're probably going to get asked a ton after people watch this. So the whole movie, you're wearing this, metal device in your mouth.
Yeah.
Was it as uncomfortable as it looked, and how challenging was it for you to get your lines across with that thing in there?
So I'm not gonna lie, it sucked. It really did. So we had the makeup guy. He actually came and took a mold of my mouth. And then Midian from what is it? Monster Makeup Effects.
Yeah, Monster Makeup Effects.
Yeah. She then built it was mostly plastic and metal. And it was, I don't know if it's because teeth move a lot or something, but when it actually came to shooting it didn't really fit. But there wasn't really time to make. We had two sets. We had a couple sets.
Three,
at least two.
Three. Yeah. We had a few sets. And none of them really seemed to fit right. So we would start the day shooting. I would put it in there, hold it in as best as I could. And by the end of the day, I would have a headache because it was just super uncomfortable moving my teeth. And I would say in the film, that was probably the most frustrating part. Was I feel so much of my acting is, it's your face. It's the subtleties of your lips and not being able to control that at all. And then not being able to just pa, ba, ba, I couldn't, you couldn't understand what I was saying. And so a lot of the scenes where I'm frustrated and freaking out, I am legitimately frustrated and freaking out because I couldn't get out what I wanted to say. So I don't know if that was just lucky or if Carmelo planned it that way, but it was uncomfortable. It was really hard. But I think in the end it added to the film because the frustration is there, the anger is there, maybe too much information, but I was drooling a lot and when I was yelling, spit would be flying, and I was oh guys, this is such a fluttering film, but that's okay. It was a challenge, but I think the challenge made the film better. So
well, to Jesse's credit, you basically redid 85% of your lines in post in ADR because we realized that we couldn't understand her well enough. And so hopefully I didn't really notice it when I watched the final cut. And hopefully you guys didn't really either, because she just nailed the vocal performance rematched to her visual performance again.
That was tough too. An ADR isn't, you think, you go into a booth and you just say your lines up again. But when they're emotional lines and there's a countdown on the screen, it's 3, 2, 1, freak out. So you go from 0 to screaming and freaking out and having to match it perfectly. It was a job. It was shooting it a second time almost. But I think I hopefully it's not too noticeable. I think I of course notice it because I'm that sounds oh man.
I don't think it's noticeable.
Yeah,
I couldn't if you didn't even say that, I wouldn't even have known,
Yeah. Oh, really?
And you guys watched it, right? Yeah.
It's definitely doable, but very, very difficult under the best of circumstances. But with the nature of the mouthpiece being what it was, it does interfere with natural lip movement. So matching it became a lot easier. The story I like to compare it to is Sam Elliott in The Big Lebowski. His mustache is so big that it covers his upper lip completely, and so those lines are ADR'd, and you just can't tell at all because you can't see it.
Well, so to kind of match that, I couldn't in the ADR booth, I couldn't just do it normally with like nothing in my mouth. So I had cotton balls that I kind of like stuffed in my mouth to kind of try to match the muffling a little bit. We tried everything, like put different things in my mouth to try to match it. And I think cotton balls ended up working the best, but it was a challenge trying to match that muffle to where you could understand me, but not all the way because there's a thing in my mouth. So that was a challenge as well, but I think we pulled it off.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. For sure.
It came across perfect. And honestly, that was one of the cringiest scenes involving the mouthpiece is all I'll say about that.
Yeah.
But
see, it's that
played.
payoff.
Well played.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
So thank you guys so much. I love how you guys, it's almost like we're talking to people from Rhode Island. Like PVD is actually Providence. You guys, oh yeah, I know a guy, and I called and I ran into a guy I knew in high school.
Yeah.
That's Rhode Island all the way.
Nice.
So it's like we're talking to Rhode Islanders. It's really messed up.
Collaborate very well.
I'm thinking the whole time, I'm like, you're in where? Because
yeah, Colorado.
3 in Colorado, and Carmelo's in.
I'm from Chicago. We all operate on the favor bank here.
Oh,
so
okay.
The I got a guy thing is very very common to me. Very.
Got a guy who's down here.
But hey, it's working with people that you trust, and I think those make the best projects. Yeah.
in Rhode Island, we don't actually trust everybody because it's New England, but we're like, yeah, I got a guy. I know a guy.
Yeah.
He'll probably show up.
You know the guy.
Yeah. So aside from the upcoming found footage film, everyone would really like to know what's coming next. And also, as an add-on to that, where can we find everything?
Got it. Sin Eater will be available on every video on demand platform. So any platform you can rent a movie, and Amazon Prime's gonna be the
and
easiest.
say that, Carmelo, I think you may have said May 11th. It's actually March 15th. So it's in like 10 days here.
Yeah, sorry if I misspoke. Yeah, March.
No, you didn't say that. I think I think Dave might have.
I thought I had the 11th in my head. So
March 15th. It'll be on video on demand everywhere. So you can, Xfinity or I don't know, probably like Vudu or anywhere you can rent a movie, you can rent it. And as far as the next picture, that remains to be seen, but it's pretty close to finished. So I actually would expect to be hearing from us before the end of the year on that one. And likewise, it'll probably have similar distribution on video on demand platforms. We are just now starting active development on a much larger picture, but it's going to be a crime drama and not in the horror genre, but more on that later this year, where it's just in development. And then in the horror side, we have a script that we'll probably do after that. That's more of like a meta slasher in the tradition of Scream or Cabin in the Woods. So that's the one I think we're all looking forward to because it's going to be a lot of fun. But I'm actually kind of glad to get it. Yeah, we've had that one for a while in our back pockets, and I think the script is a ton of fun. But it's I need a break from horror too. I think like if we get this break, that movie will be great because I'll go into it super pumped. If I have to film that movie tomorrow, I am so burnt out on gore that like I can't do it.
I'm still scared from going in your basement with the camera.
I haven't been to my third floor since then. We filmed this last movie named The Demon in my house, and I have not been to the third floor of my house since then because it scares me.
Dude, that room is haunted forever. Seriously, that room is like done.
If I could burn the room without burning my house, I would.
If you guys want a little bit of info, we partnered, I don't know, he's just known in the indie world with Joe Castro for effects on that. I don't know if you've talked to him before, but he's a well-known indie effects guy, and he did some really awesome work on Jessie. Sorry, Jessie, once again. But we all got some work done to us too, and so there's plenty of realistic gore. We try not to make it over the top. Plenty of cam light stuff, which is my go-to. I love that shit, and it's got an actual like really good story with character development. So I think we do have a really good found footage movie on our hands here.
Definitely. Yeah. So looking forward to all that for sure. And the Sin Eater finally getting out March 15th. And we can't wait to see the feedback. The trailer's out there building the anticipation. So hopefully, it's get that out there and people watching it.
We're definitely, I wanted to just add to one more thing. Carmelo has breezed by some of those projects, and there may be a chance, Carmelo, that director's cut, I don't know, it's a slight chance.
It's
probably
possible.
not going to happen.
It's still possible. Yeah, we might
possible
do it
they could be
first.
switched in the middle. That's the working title of the sort of black horror comedy one. But those two will definitely 100%, as Jesse was saying, a major step up from Sin Eater. We Scotty and I sort of have delved out on our own into the producing world and found ways and learned a lot and been a part of a lot of other productions lately. And we're sort of bringing it back to the team, and Carmelo's bringing a lot to it. And so these are going to be big projects with some awesome people in them. And we're still finalizing all that, but we're bumping out up into the multiple millions of that $2 to $6 million range.
Adding a zero to everything we're doing now.
Yeah.
Does that include my pay?
Not your pay won't be.
Yeah.
All right.
About that. Yeah.
You want some points? We've got points.
Yeah.
I'll take some points.
I feel like they're just increasing the torment for you. It doesn't sound like the pay.
Yeah.
We
What
owe
do you
Jessie
like
so
to
much.
say that you're my Sam Raimi and I'm your Bruce Campbell?
Yeah.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
That's right.
I go, Jessie, I'm gonna make you the biggest scream queen there ever was. And she goes, I don't want to be a scream queen.
She's like, okay, fine. We won't have you wear a mouthpiece or put a prosthetic on you for the next one.
I have a sequel for Sin Eater in mind that would not require her to go through that. So I would. Okay. You may see if anyone likes this movie, if it gets any kind of support, I'd love to do a sequel, and I've got a good one in mind.
I will tell you, and maybe Jesse has experienced this though, coming from horror and having a lot of like roots in horror filmmaking and acting in horror. You'll get on another project that's like maybe an action or something, and they'll be applying a gunshot wound or something, and they're like, I'm so sorry, like, oh, we're getting on the and you'll be like, oh, I've had my guts ripped out, I've had different stages of burns on me, I've been in makeup for 7 hours, and it's like it's like nothing compared
it is. I mean, a lot of people like to complain about that process, but I mean it's minuscule. It's minuscule compared to what you get out of it.
Yes.
So whatever. Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. Yeah, you're right. You get the payoff. You get what the people want to see.
Yeah.
It does. I am with you, Jesse, though, although I've never done it as bad as you, but it does suck sometimes. You're like, God, I really got to go through that like again today. And like this last film we did, it was Jesse, probably your worst overall getup was in She Walks the Woods, because that was like a 7-hour job, but you only had to do it like twice, right?
I think it was, we had 1 night of practice and then 3 nights.
Okay, so 3 times. But and then of course Sin Eater was like toned down for her, but it was that was like 3 weeks of wearing that thing. So it was a little thing, but just over a long period of time. But I feel like with Name the Demon, we like combined the two, and it was like 7 full days.
Name the Demon was pretty rough because my whole body was painted in like an alcohol-based paint. Yeah. So I mean, keep in mind throughout the shoot, I'm getting like tossed. We're wrestling, fighting, biting, scratching. Oh yeah. And then at the end of the night, he takes it off by just rubbing pure alcohol on me. And that was it 7 or 8 days? 7 days in a row. Like by the end of like the last few days, my skin was starting to get rashy, and it's just like,
oh God, yeah, it was bad.
I
feel bad for you after all this.
That's why Carmelo has promised me something fun. It doesn't have to be a romantic comedy. I would take like a Western. That would be fun too.
Yeah. Or a crime drama.
Yeah.
I have a Western script too, but never mind.
I have a ranch connection. Let's do it.
I have a script for that. That should be just your tagline. I have a script for that.
That's it.
Well, I hope that as you guys release all these projects and keep working on new projects, you don't forget about us. and just kind of keep in the loop with us, because I am very excited for you guys. And you guys are like, this was so much fun. You guys have great personalities, and this was just an amazing experience. Just kind of hear a group of people so enthusiastic about the work and just love the genre and the work you're doing. So thank you guys so much for joining us.
Thanks,
man. Ronner, thank you, man.
It was a
Thank you very
pleasure.
much.
Likewise with you guys. You guys are the same way, so appreciate it.
Thank you. Well, everybody, make sure you check out Sin Eater March 15th. So I'm sorry for the error earlier. March 15th. Basically anywhere you can rent a movie, you're going to be able to find it. So check it out and stay tuned, because I have a feeling we're going to be seeing a lot more of these guys. So thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.